on there, then you only have about 6,000 RPM.
Okay.
Then once you see that temperature's on there, then you can obviously go to the 8,000.
Nice.
There it is.
Pretty obvious. I mean, cones are at your apexes. You've got kind of a double apex corner through here.
Okay.
Try to break in as straight of a line here as possible. Let it run a little bit wide. Onto the back straight. Through there. This is a tricky one. You basically just want to let it track out.
Okay.
Hold it out and then bring it back in and through here. Oh, this is where the car comes alive.
I
Makes
told
sense.
you. There. Yep.
Now, just one thing about this track is it is a little bit tough on brakes. So it's almost like Gingerman, where there aren't just a lot of opportunities for brakes to cool down. Wasn't expecting it 3 laps in though.
Well, I can tell you I've never had that happen yet, so I'm a little bit surprised.
Well, this is a really tight track. It's really tough to. It's tough to have a car with crazy brakes and cooling work. They feel good now, but we'll take it a little easy. Let it cool down a little bit. not very at home on the street. This is where it comes alive.
Absolutely.
Obviously. Second camshaft come in too.
Absolutely.
There it is. Cool, man.
Glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Give it a little bit of a cool down here. Yeah, I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure it gets much better for, like I've driven a Navora and I hated it. I wasn't impressed. I thought that these would push a little bit more. Maybe it's the aero on here, but the front end is super tight. It feels great.
The huge thing, there's two big things you can do to these cars that help. One is, you know, obviously a good suspension, right? A well-built suspension makes a lot of difference as far as weight transfer. The second thing that I would say is, you know, the aero helps. The other big thing is that this has 2.5 degrees of camber as well.
Oh, okay, yeah,
so that will also help a lot with the turn in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll help a lot. Nice.
It's a pretty raw car.
It is, yeah.
And then when you get on the track, you're like, wow, this was what it was built for.
Yeah.
Nothing else really matters.
No, it's true.
So is there anything you didn't like? Anything that you did like? What are your...
So basically, you know, I come from the world of Miatas.
Right.
And this is just a little bit, you know, it's a Miata turned up quite a few notches. And it's mid-engine, it's you know, it's a different car. But the weight of it and the levels of grip are about the same.
Absolutely.
And the way it acts throughout corners is different, of course. But it's really pretty impressive. The brakes are great. There's really, really amazing feedback. You can tell exactly what the car is doing all the time. The power is phenomenal. I wouldn't really I don't feel wanting for more power, but I come from cars with 120 horsepower.
You understand that, I understand that, but
yeah.
A lot of other people look at these cars and they think it's only 220 horsepower, and until you get, you know, an understanding of, you know, racetracks and obviously driving on a racetrack, you'll never truly appreciate a car like this.
Yeah.
That's my own opinion. It may be a little narrow-minded, but...
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's you get into a rhythm with this car and it's beautiful. It's like a symphony. It's great. It's glorious.
Absolutely.
I wish the transmission were just a little bit more precise, but you know what? That's just kind of part of the car.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things, like I said, if you want to spend more money, Sector 111 makes an upgraded kit, and there's also the Extreme option, which is for like $2,000, send it over to Europe. So there are other options, and now this is not even as bad as a stock Exige. If you were to take a stock Exige out on the track, that's rough. Yes, correct.
Take it right? Okay. Yeah, but I mean, everything in here is very approachable, very easy, very usable. You know, you look at one of these and you think, what can you expect with all the controls? Everything is, you figure out in 2 minutes. You know, it's not a problem, which is kind of cool, I think.
Well, and that's the simplicity I loved about it, right?
Yeah.
I come from a world where 90% of the time my car is on the track. It barely ever goes to Cars and Coffee. It barely ever gets driven. So for me, it's one of those things where, you know, I want it to be simple, whereas if a family friend wants to go out and drive it for a few minutes, they can figure it out. I want it to be simple enough where I don't have to sit here and replace everything every 6 or 7 miles because a panel's rattling here.
Yeah.
Or because, you know, you've got a battery failure someplace else because the car's got 2 batteries. I just wanted straightforward,
And
no drama, fun.
I'm really surprised about the ride too. I mean, you probably have this set up for kind of a street comfort setup right now with the dampers and everything, but I'm sure you can stiffen things up for the track and tweak and rebalance a little bit.
I want to say right now the front spring rates are around guess here at what I remember from what wheel that is. I want to say it was like 675 or 725 in the front, and then like 800 in the rear or something like that.
All right. Neat.
So they're still pretty aggressive, but like you said, you could probably adjust it a lot more if you wanted.
Sure.
To make it more aggressive.
Tweak the damping and all that good stuff. Well, it did great on track. I mean, for a track like M1 Concourse 2, you're not going to want to throw a bunch of stiffness at it too, because it's a pretty low grip surface considering. But things I really like are the shifter placement. The ergonomics are great. I like the seat. It's super comfortable. I mean, this feels like my Miata race seat, you know? It fits me perfectly. It probably fits you pretty well.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, you feel snug. You feel like you're really bolted in there nicely. And on track, it's great. I don't know how you were over there on your side.
You know, the stock seats are actually not bad. A lot of the Lotus guys will actually cut out a notch for a harness and just use the stock seats.
Okay, cool.
I personally don't mind the stock seats. I'm also really picky though, and I like a lot of that lateral support that goes all the way up through, obviously above your hip bones into your rib cage.
Yeah,
so,
this is great.
You know, for me, that makes all the world of difference.
You just feel like you're being spooned the whole time. It's like you're getting a nice hug.
Bear hug from the car. And what's great is that because, like you said, the ergonomics of the car are laid out so well, and because there's so much feedback through the steering wheel and the pedals and from the car, you're just that much more connected with the vehicle, the seat. And I just, to me, the more information is better.
It is, and it's hard mounted, and the driving position is really nice too. And I could see how a larger wheel would limit your clearance here because it's not very high up. I assume it doesn't adjust. I
don't believe so, no.
Yeah, it's great. Ergonomics are awesome. I'm impressed with that because you never know what to expect. One thing that's kind of funky is maybe it's the seat position, but I feel like the wheel's a little bit off to the side here, but it's barely noticeable.
Yeah, I don't know. What I can tell you is that if you actually look at the dash, you can remove all those buttons over here and swap it, and that may be some of the seat position as well when they designed the cars, that maybe to fit the dash, the steering wheel, the center console, the shifter, they move the seats slightly on an angle. I just don't know. I have to do some research on it.
Sure. But I mean, like, you get into a new Camaro, and the wheel is actually not parallel to your body. It's a little bit this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there may be a reason for that. I just, you know, I didn't engineer this stuff.
Packaging and
nobody asked my opinion, so what do I?
Yeah, that's right. It's cool that it's a completely symmetrical cabin, but it also makes sense given the size of Lotus as a company. And
they didn't have the finances to obviously build independent panels. They tried to make everything universal and adaptive, so that way if you're in Europe, you obviously, you know, can shift everything over to the right-hand side.
Yep. Is this coolant temp here?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, cool. Do you have any other modes within there, or is that it?
There are other modes. I have not personally gone through it.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of guys may like throw in like a Motronic or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Get your race gauges with flashing lights.
Yep.
I don't think I took it quite up to 8,000 RPM, but it really, I mean, it's kind of got that S2000-esque. Like, it just keeps revving and revving and revving. And the power just builds insanely well. It's
the
awesome.
car lives at that 6,000 to 8,000 RPM range.
Yeah.
That's, you know, what its intended purpose was for.
And there's the part of the car that, like, maybe people don't talk about as much, but just the way it looks and the way it makes you feel when you walk up to it.
To me, it's an exotic car from a performance standpoint, a look standpoint. And I think what I like about the looks is that it's not overdone.
Yeah.
To me, I'm not a big fan of the C7 Z06. I feel like there's so much happening with the body at times, you can't appreciate all of it. It just, your eyes go everywhere. Where in this car, I feel like there's enough curvature where it gives it an exotic look, but it's not overdone. It's got a simplistic beauty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, these are, it looks insane, but it's also going to be timeless, and you know, people love it too, and it doesn't quite have the, you know, associated maybe stigmas as like Ferrari or some of the supercar brands. It's just that the stigma is people don't know what the heck it is.
And that's half the battle, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a diehard automotive enthusiast, right, or you spend your life on the track, you probably have a little bit more knowledge.
Yeah.
But to most people, you know, they'll either ask me, you know, what is it? Where did it come from? Did you build it yourself? And I'm like, no. I'd love to tell you, you know, I did, but I did not.
Yep. I like what Steve said in the video. He said it's a boutique British brand. It's a boutique British sports car brand.
It is.
And that makes sense. Yeah. Part of me wants to get something like this really, really badly, just because of what it is.
Absolutely.
And how great of a driving experience it is. And it's just something different to add to kind of that whole automotive experience.
It is.
In life, you know. And also, you know, to me, it kind of makes sense financially in some respects when you compare it to some of the bigger boys out there, like Porsches, for example. I mean, this, you can get into this basically less than any Porsche with this about as much rawness or capability, or, you know, it's half the price of any GT3.
Well, and I think for the amount of performance you get in this car, you compete with cars 2 and 3 and 4 times its price point, in my opinion.
Exactly, yeah.
You may not have the straight line speed, but when you add everything together as a package, you know, it's a very exclusive set of cars. You know, obviously they look great, they perform incredibly well, and, you know, repairs are not horrible. I mean, I bought all 4 corners of this car on our 888Rs when they came out about 3 months ago, and I spent about $775.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's just nuts. And then for me as well, you know, you look at the whole drivetrain, which some people are not a fan of, and I understand why. I mean, I was one of those guys looking to swap it.
Sure.
But you can go buy a brand new transmission and engine combination for this car for about, you know, $3,500.
Okay, nice.
So that's not horrible.
Not bad
when
at
you
all.
think about the fact that you're going to spend most of your life on the track or just even driving it pretty aggressively.
Yep.
It's
and
not
a track
horrible.
car's engines have life in hours.
Absolutely.
You know, not miles, hours. But like, that's great. I mean, that's what my BRZ is. You know, it's about $2,000-3,000 for an engine transmission, and you're done.
Absolutely.
It's not 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand like a lot of the supercars are. And those go through engines as much as any other track
Well,
car.
you're paying for maintenance and you're paying for parts. And
Yep.
in this car, I mean, you know, parts are not terribly expensive considering a lot of the drivetrain is Toyota.
Yep.
And the other nice thing is that it's so small, even compared to a Miata. I mean, you think you're, you know, 400 or 500 pounds lighter than most Miatas. That's still less wear and tear on the expendables because you're carrying less momentum and weight transfer.
Yep.
Obviously, braking, accelerating, and laterally. And so,
Is this just about under 2,000 pounds?
this is at 2,077 from the factory.
Okay. So this is about 200 pounds lighter than my Miata.
Correct.
Yep. Which is, you know, a full-size person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think for me personally, the big debate is, do I get something like this that has more street cred, or do I get into a Miata that maybe has a little bit less performance, but is, you know, a quarter of the price, or you know, a third of the price?
Absolutely.
And for me, that's just kind of an internal debate that I need to kind of reconcile. So
absolutely. Well, I think it's one of those things where you have to identify, obviously, what is your objective, and then do you have other cars that fill that niche? And, you know, that's you know, something that all of us have to figure out, like what our limits and comfort zone is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
But man, I will say, that said, I will say this inspires a ton of confidence on track. It's really well set up. The coilovers must be a big part of that. It's really good. I mean, I remember getting in the Evora and it was fine. This just has another level of feedback and just sure-footedness that is rare in a lot of cars these days, especially cars like this. And this Lotus too. You know, Lotus is, they really are some of the best chassis design engineers in the world.
And suspensions.
Yeah, and suspension, is right.
And I think ultimately, you know, what makes this car unique as well, which I think people don't always think about, is it's great to drive and it's easy to drive for all the reasons you mentioned, but also because it's still a power-to-weight car in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
when you're not in that power band between 6,000 to 8,000 RPM, it's really a momentum car, which really makes it hard to make mistakes.
Yep.
The mistakes in this car really come when you're driving at 10/10s because of how nimble it is, because of the lift-off oversteer, because of the short wheelbase. But if you're not living at that, you know, edge, it's really hard to make mistakes in it.
Yep.
Unlike a Corvette or a Viper where you've got instant power all the time, it just takes one mismanage of the gas and you're obviously oversteering everywhere.
There's a little bit more of a limit here.
Yes.
In a Miata, you could be flat out all the time and be fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, I hope you find someone to buy this, like, who will use it on track. Because I think after experiencing that, that is really where this car just goes from, you know, that's really where the value is. It's phenomenal. It's probably one of the better track cars I've ever driven. It's cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, really cool.
No, I've been pretty fortunate with this car where I really have not had any issues with it from a performance standpoint. I mean, like I said, we were, you know, going up to the local track, which is Waterford outside of M1, you know, there's obviously the markers, right, for the meters, and between 100 and 200 meters, I can stop it up from 120, and it works. Now, granted, that's on slicks, right, so
yeah,
that's also a big difference, but, you know, it's, the overall driving experience to me is second to none. I haven't really ridden anything yet that I'm sitting there like, wow, this reminds me of my Lotus, or this is as raw.
Yeah. This is pretty awesome. Wow.
As I said in my original comment, it's the closest thing you get to a go-kart on wheels.
Yeah.
If you could drive a shifter car on the street, well then maybe it wouldn't be, but...
No, it's true. I mean, it's such a cliche thing to say, and everyone says it these days, but this is the original, this is like the OG go-kart on wheels. This is where it all, that term probably started.
I mean, there are very few cars I feel like for power to weight, you know, and handling that come to mind, outside of maybe the Miata. Maybe if you spend some money, I know that the, I believe, first generation MR2 got down to like 2,400 or 2,500 pounds. I mean,
yeah,
there's just not a really light cars out there.
Old Porsches are light.
Yes.
Surprisingly light. But yeah, you're right. That's about it. It's a small list.
I mean, I hate to say, even you look at like a Fiesta ST or, you know, the Focus ST, right? Something that you would, by most car standards, say is pretty small, and, you know, compared to a Miata or this Lotus, it looks mammoth.
Yep. And, you know, you'll get into like Mark I GTIs and stuff that you can strip out and get under 2,000 pounds, but yeah.
Absolutely.
The thing is, also, it's completely effortlessly freaking cool. It's so cool. I mean, it's supercar cool.
Well, and that's where I go back to. It's got this simplistic beauty. Everything about it is refined and just very simple. And you would say, well, you know, that's not what I'm paying for, right? And a lot of people complain because they wish there was more luxury. But you talk to a lot of the Lotus guys, and they say what you learn about a Lotus is that you learn to appreciate more. That less is more about a Lotus.
Yeah.
That's what makes it great. That's what makes the uniqueness of it. That's what makes it appealing compared to so many other cars.
And when you build a track car, you do all this stuff anyway. If anything, this has more than a track car does, because it has AC and power windows, and, you know.
This is what happens when you take a 18 or 1700 pound car and say, hey, listen, I still want headlights, windshield wiper, AC, and a heater.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I have about 4 inches above my head.
Correct.
Quite a bit of headroom.
Well, and if you put the OEM seat back in, there are people on the forums who move the seat all the way back and are 6'2" and 6'3", and they fit in this car comfortably.
Sure. That's cool. There's my 850R.
It's a gorgeous car.
Yeah, I love it.
Those are pretty rare, aren't they?
Yeah.
I thought so.
That was my dream car in high school, and my buddy bought one. Oh, we get to test the turning radius.
You do, which you'll make it if you come a little bit right till about here, and then you were to go up a little bit and start turning left, and you'll crank the whole thing, and you won't have an issue.
Oh yeah. Take this drifting.
You can just literally do your own mini donuts right there in the intersection.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's not enough power to do that, but
no,
I'm sure if you loaded it up correctly, you can make it. So now, just nice and easy right here.
No, next one.
Yes, next one. Sorry, my apologies. Beautiful. And just cut it to the left, and you go right on up. It's almost like you've done that before.
Driveway hacks.
Absolutely.
John, real pleasure.
Not a problem. Thank you.
man.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, there you go. 2007 Lotus Exige S240.
220.
220. 2007, right?
Correct. 2008's the 240.
All right, cool. 2 thumbs up.